As I really like using the Trangia system, I suppose it was inevitable I'd get curious enough to go out and buy myself a mini Trangia set. Having taken it out of the box, my first impression was it's very small, especially when you put it next to one of its siblings like the Trangia 27 or the Trangia 25. Of course it's small, it's called a mini Trangia for a reason. Let's have a quick look at what's inside. Non-stick frying pan with a piece of plastic to prevent scratching when it's packed away. Small pot grabber. Trangia alcohol stove. Small saucepan with a capacity of 800 millilitres and a pot support stroke windshield. This kit cost me £30 on Amazon, which on the face of it looks a tad expensive, but when you start breaking down the individual components and factoring in that it was made in Sweden, it actually becomes really good value for money. If you wanted a Trangia alcohol stove, it's going to cost you £10 anywhere. Frying pan, if you can get one separately, that's got to be another £10. The pot stand, if you can get one of them, another £10. So you're basically getting a small saucepan and a pot grabber for free. I wanted to be out using this today, but the weather's absolutely horrible. It makes filming pretty much near impossible. So I wanted to share with you some observations that I've made, and also show you this prototype piece that I've made, which I think is going to give this little stove set a lot more functionality. I wrongly had an idea in my head that the way this base was manufactured and these lugs were pushed through and stamped up, that they held the stove up above the bottom of the base plate, and so that would protect the ground from excessive heat. Of course I was completely wrong about that. The lugs inside aren't to keep the alcohol stove elevated up a bit higher, they're just there to stop him moving around inside the pot support. The finish quality is very good, but there are one or two little rough edges here and there. I guess they could spend the time to smooth these off a bit, but then they'd have to increase the cost of the product. At first glance, when you see the pot grabber, it looks a little bit weak and insufficient. It's not until you actually go to use it on the frying pan or the saucepan you realise that it's perfectly well designed to do the job that it's supposed to do. The bottom of the pot is not completely flat, it's got this little recess, and what that does is when you put it on the pot support, it prevents it from sliding off. The frying pan's got a nice non-stick coating. To be honest with you, I'd be happy without the non-stick coating because most of my pots and pans, I don't really need it. So it'd be interesting to see how it performs. The frying pan's been created in such a way where they've pressed in from the side to deliberately create these little indentations. And what they do, that provides you with a locking system on the pot, and it's good and sturdy just by putting this together and taking it apart a few times. I can see that the non-stick is starting to wear slightly on these little indentations, and I can see that getting rubbed off in no time at all. Pot capacity is stated at 800 millilitres. I'm interested to find out if that's 800 millilitres to the very top of the pot or the usable amount of liquid inside the pot. I could be wrong, but looking at them side by side, 800 millilitres looks like the amount to the top of the pot. Yep, it is. Not quite sure I'm going to get that out now without spilling it. There are times when I think to myself, I wish I hadn't bothered doing this. So clearly the usable amount of liquid you can put in that little pot is a lot less than 800 millilitres. So the actual usable capacity is more around 450 to 500 millilitres. Different manufacturers state their pot capacity in different ways. So obviously Trangia, they state their capacity is 800 millilitres. They mean right up to the brim. Other manufacturers, just as an example, this is a 750ml mug from Silverantoutdoors, and I'm hoping you can pick it up on the camera. the 750 millilitres is up to that mark there. So that gives you a usable capacity, not a total capacity. I like the way this little pot stand's been designed so that you can use the flame adjuster without any issues. The pot support's clearly large enough to take bigger pots and pans if you need to. The width of the pot support has clearly been designed for the bottom of this pan, or something a bit larger. Where this little pot support lets itself down is it doesn't have the ability to support any mug or cup that you'd use with a Nalgene bottle. You can put it on, but it will sink down and just get stuck. It's just a little bit too wide for this style of cup. You can work around that by using a rack of some kind and putting your pot on top. Although this is very useful, the downside is if you're looking at a compact system, it's not going to fit in your pot. You have to pack it somewhere else separately. It's time to talk about my odd piece of metal. My solution was to bend this little bit of metal in such a way where it sits on top of those 3 prongs. And then I can use an Nalgene style cup on top. You'll notice that he's slightly off center, but that shouldn't make a lot of difference, and he's really solid on top of there. I created it in such a way where I can use the simmer ring without having to take anything else on or off, and I can also use the snuffer. So now with the basic template, I can go ahead and make myself something a little more aesthetically pleasing with this piece of stainless steel rod. As soon as the weather gets a little tiny bit more reliable, myself and my new little cooking companion friend will be out and about.